Why do credit limits shrink after retirement? We get this question often, and it doesn't seem to make sense. You got a consumer with a good credit score, paid consistently, yet credit limits shrink. Why? Here with macroeconomist Nikki Finlay. Nikki, good to see you.
It's nice to see you too. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. So give us like the reason why this happens, because it's a common question we hear and we don't understand it, and maybe you can give us some insight.
Well, part of it has to do with shrinking incomes. And people look at inflow, banks, credit companies look at inflow more than they do what you have set aside, because that's kind of hidden from them, what your assets are. And one of your bigger assets, if you're my age, I'm, over 65, is a home, which is all tied up, right? Unless you sell it and you want to rent. That just seems so. A lot of the asset that you have are tied up in a home if you've gone to the trouble of buying one. But the other thing is they're also sitting aside in your 401k getting doled out, and your bank will see what you're getting doled out. And it might not be, the plain fact is you don't need as much to live on. We've discovered this post retirement. So you don't pull as much money out of your 401k as you might have thought. Your bank sees this shrinking income stream coming in. And of course, this gets transmitted to the credit card companies as well. Plus, a lot of people my age have started reducing the amount of transactions they have. And that's really a red flag. It's like, well, are they in trouble? Are they going to be in trouble? And it's mostly just a matter of we've paid off all our debt. We don't
Mm.
need to rack up credit card debt to get by.
So, but I guess why do they like just randomly drop the credit limit? Because, they don't see, credit scoring with credit scoring, they don't have an access to see the income. They can see, like you mentioned, like spending criterias and stuff like that. But why is retirement itself seen like a risk as like a risk event or something of that
Of course it
nature?
is.
Okay.
Of course it
Because
is.
all of a sudden,
Because
because, but I
the
mean,
time frame is shrunk.
yeah.
I mean, you could live to be 100, but still the time frame is not what it was when you were 25.
Mhm.
And if you have a major life event, like a medical crisis particularly, then you could rack up quite a bit of debt, not
Yeah.
have the assets to pay it off, and not have anything in the 401k left aside for those kind of events. Medicare will cover a chunk of it, but will it cover all of it? Probably not.
Yeah.
It, and certainly with out of home hospice care, that's not covered.
Yeah.
If you need specialized
Yeah.
care, you're going to have to, and that could get pricey
Yeah.
really quickly.
Very,
So
very
there's
expensive.
two risks. Basically, that risk that you're not going to be able to pay off all your debt because the time frame is shrinking,
Hmm.
but also the risk that something will happen and you'll have some sort of major expenditure that will just shrink what you have available to pay off any additional debt, especially unsecured debt.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. Like when you do retire, like, I mean, practically the runway shrinks where a younger person has their life, their longer life, where you're saying as a retired person, the income goes down. And if something does happen, they're not going to pay it back in the same exact way, most likely, right? They do have other
Correct.
assets, obviously. I mean, a younger family, a 30 or 40-year-old family has kids. I mean, I got five kids at home, one at college. That's a lot of expenses. But the
Yes.
retired couple doesn't necessarily have that.
But
Um,
they might be helping you pay for college expenses, for
yeah.
instance.
Yeah.
I mean, if one of my kids, for some reason, had college debt, we
Yeah.
would certainly be in the business of helping them get out. At the moment, we're setting aside savings for a grandson.
Yeah.
But I just recently read this that a lot of boomers, for instance, are taking on the college debt that their children might have accrued or their grandchildren
Yeah.
And helping them get out of debt seems much more important than having some sort of legacy left. And it's a good idea, but at the same time, you've got to protect what you have in case something happens to you and you need your money.
But like, I guess that our seniors feel a little punished sometimes because they've
Yes,
saved, they have they have these pensions that they've saved into. Yes, some may be supporting their kids and grandkids, but not all of them, right?
no,
Kids can
that's true.
handle it themselves. I mean, my parents don't help me out, but all of a sudden their earned income looks different than Social Security income or pension income. And I don't know, it just seems arbitrary.
Social Security, in my case, I was blindsided by this change from a 25-year working period to a 35-year working period. I don't have 35 years of working experience, not at full wages anyway. And I have 10 years of working experience that wasn't covered by Social Security.
Right.
I mean, payouts. So, I mean, so my Social Security looks really dinky compared to what I was making when I was working. No, and it's not going to be. It's not going to replace your income.
Hmm.
So if that's all you've got coming in, and keep in mind the median, the amount that people have saved up for retirement is under $400,000 for baby boomers, the
Hmm.
median. The average is quite a bit higher, but the median is really the story here. You've got some of us who've done well and others who just haven't been able to save quite enough to make sure they're going to be okay for 30 years.
Right.
And that's the other problem is you've got a longer lifespan to deal with as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I understand the concept of a reduced income. I understand the fact that like at the shorter time frame, but man, I can't imagine like I would put my dollar on a senior citizen who has all day
managed to
long
cut it well.
over a 30-year-old who just, who's consumed by consumerism and buying things like as a reaction. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but going back to this whole thing, it just seems really unfair, right? And
It is a little unfair, yes.
now,
And but the other thing that happens is your expenses generally go down.
yeah, I know.
And so they don't see that side of the equation.
Which doesn't make, I mean, first of all, when you're getting money from some pensions or defined benefits or Social Security number, the taxation's differently, right? Much
Mhm.
different than when you're in your earning years. Second of all, your expenses go way down. You don't spend the same money.
No,
So
you don't
once
have
again, it
to.
just seems like a little just unfair or off. But I mean, this is what we're seeing.
Well, it is unfair, and there's certainly folks over 60 who still need access to a reasonable amount of credit. Perhaps they're starting businesses. And it can seem like a weird time to start a business, but that's what I did. Now, don't have a whole lot of capital tied up in my business, so I didn't go into debt doing this. But on the other hand, they could have a medical history that keeps them from working as long as they could have. That's what happened to me is I had to
Yeah.
retire early, and so, the amount of money gets shortened by that. And yet you're still looking at the same lifespan.
Nikki, let me ask you a question. If you're retiring, looking back with what you did, right? Or we're talking to our seniors, they're listening to this recording. How do you prep yourself for because when they arbitrarily drop your credit limit, it changes your credit score. It pushes your credit score down because of that utilization. What can retirees do to
Well, use your
support that?
credit. I mean,
What was
quite
that?
frankly, use it. I mean, take your daily expenses, but make sure you're in the habit of paying off your credit card.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
that's really good because a lot of times, especially with our students, they charge one thing, they pay it off, one thing, pay it off, one thing, pay it off. But if you're not going to use your credit score to buy a car or whatever, it really doesn't matter if your credit score goes down in the middle of the month and goes back up. If you put your expenses, like you're advocating, on the credit card, the credit mixing it up amongst the three credit cards, and then pay it off at the end of the month, that's what the credit card companies or the banks are going to be looking at mostly. And there'll
Yeah.
probably be a lower likelihood of them just arbitrarily cutting your limit in half.
In fact, my husband tells me his credit limit went up.
Oh, okay,
He's
great.
68.
So is he doing that? Is he putting all his
We
expenses
put
on?
everything.
Okay.
We've got one of those points cards, of course, but
Yeah.
we put everything on the credit card. We pay it off at the end of the month. So we have our two bank cards. I have one, he has one, and we have an Amazon card, which
Hmm.
we use. Those are our main three cards.
Hmm.
And we pay them off every month. I occasionally will buy something with a
Hmm.
store credit card, 12 months, same as cash.
Hmm.
That looks good too because you've got a debt, you're paying it off over time, as long as it's something you can pay for.
Yeah.
If you get into trouble, this is when you really don't need to be getting into trouble.
Right.
You need to be having it there in case there is an emergency. And you should have a buffer, quite frankly. I mean, a lot of Americans just don't. And that's the first thing any financial advisor will tell you is to make sure you have a buffer for those little unexpected, a tire blows out. Those little things, they still happen when you're 65. It does not change.
So this is good. This is really helpful feedback because and it shifts a little bit how we educate our students. We always talk about buying something and paying it off, buying something, pay it off. The shift here for retirees that you're advocating is when you're getting close to retirement, as opposed to using your credit card sparingly and buying one thing, paying it off, buying one thing, paying it off. Put all your reasonable expenses, things that you can afford, with the buffer,
To pay
keeping a
off
buffer in
each
place
month, yes.
each month. Put it on the card so the bank sees you using it, and then pay it off at the end of the month. And because the higher usage, yes, it'll impact your credit score negatively, but you're really not, unless you need your credit score because you're buying a home or buying a car, it really doesn't matter, right? And then the
Correct.
bank sees you using it, just like you did with you and your husband. And then instead of dropping the credit limit, they actually did the opposite for you and raised it.
Yes.
Wait,
Not for
Nikki,
me personally. Mine stayed the same. Mine
but
didn't
but your
fall.
husband went up.
Yeah, but I routinely put all of my charges on my credit card every month. They get paid off. I sometimes buy a piece of furniture. We still occasionally need those things.
Yeah, of
Something
course.
doesn't
Of
quite
course.
work the way I have problems with my hands, so I need a different kind of dresser, a different kind of drawer pulls, for instance. So you might need something to make your home a little better, easier to work around if you're having trouble with arthritis or if you're permanently disabled like I am. You need different things. You need, and that stuff isn't always cheap. But at the same time, if you've got the credit wherewithal, then you don't have a problem. Now, and often, if you're one of those people who takes vacations like we do, we have at least one major vacation every year. We spend a fair amount of money on it. So that racks up the credit, but we still, we'll pull it out of savings and we'll pay it off,
Yeah.
and it's a good way to use your credit card is for those kinds of expenses. Yeah, it dings our credit rating for a few points for, a few weeks and then it's back up. And you still have the amount you need just in case there really is a serious emergency. And then you can, if you need to, you can pay it back slowly over time if that's the case.
Practically, as a senior, you don't need your credit score like you do when you're younger. But at the same time, you don't want to get punished by a dropped credit limit. And these
Correct.
insights that Nikki just gave us with adding your expenses to your credit card as opposed to limiting your credit card usage will protect you. Nikki, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You've been watching the 720 Credit Score YouTube channel. If you want to rebuild your credit the right way, visit 720creditscore.com. Please like this video and subscribe for more great content.